Coming up on this edition of VCU In Depth, documentaries from students in VCU's Robertson School of Media and Culture.
Tonight we'll look at the movement toward making fresh, nutritious food available in so-called food deserts.
And we'll look back at a documentary from a year ago featuring a same-sex Richmond couple whose love transcends a difficult medical condition.
VCU In Depth begins right now. Hello, and welcome to this edition of VCU In Depth. I'm Sean Hicks.
And I'm Zach Staple. Thank you for joining us as we feature documentaries from undergraduate students in VCU's Robertson School of Media and Culture. Many people around the world struggle with the ongoing issue of accessing fresh produce.
About 23.5 million people live in a so-called food desert, and just about half of them live in low-income areas.
In Virginia alone, there are more than 200 areas identified as food deserts. First Lady Michelle Obama's fight against childhood obesity, called Let's Move, is part of a plan to eradicate food deserts by 2017.
This documentary, called Unripe RVA, talks about the issue of food deserts and looks at what people in Richmond are doing to fight this phenomenon.
A vegetable that you grow in the garden has 50 times the vitamins as one you buy in the store. Right there is why everyone's sick.
In my mind, and also kind of what I've heard it described as, is a space where people have a really hard time accessing healthy or fresh food. And that can be because there's no local markets where they can purchase something like that, or transportation is really difficult. So a really poorly run bus system, or people not having cars or being able to afford that transportation. And that can lead to a lot of big problems with health, with mostly health.
The biggest problem is that my roommates have a car and I do not. So, but I work, they're still students and I'm graduated. So the struggle is I work at nights, I work dinners at a restaurant, and they go to the store at night and they drive the car. So a lot of times I have to ride my bike during the day to go to Kroger, and I bring a backpack, but then I get too much food, so I have to carry things on my handlebars, like plastic bags, and wrap them around. And it's a safety issue, and I have to ride a little slow, but it's a pain in the butt, and I wish it was another option.
The thing that we find out where we're at in Goochland County, we're about 35 miles from here, is the lack of transportation for people who are underserved to get to markets. Our nearest major grocery store is in Goochland, we're 17 miles from that. And there's pockets of poverty all through Goochland, small houses, multiple families, and no transportation. There are no large box stores here at all, no grocery stores.
Hardest part is, I guess, getting back from the grocery store. If on the bike, it's more difficult than other times, and especially, I've come home on the bike and my eggs were squashed because I got into a close call with a car trying to cut me off or whatever, and some things get damaged on the way back, and then that's a waste of money, and it's a waste of money that I can't really afford to lose.
I think there's a bunch of benefits to the garden being exactly where it is. One, and it's really exposed when the farmers market is here, so people get to see it, which is kind of cool because not only are they buying fresh local produce, but they're also seeing fresh local produce being produced. And then it's cool because people, will come down here and check it out with their dogs, or I'll be working and they'll be like, what is that? What are you growing? And I'll explain it all. And just kind of continuing to establish, or rather reestablish, the connection between what we eat and where it comes from.
The one by Creighton Court, when I plant collards and people walk by, especially strawberries and little kids, the mothers will stop and talk, and I say, you know, if you want to weed a little bit, help yourself. So sometimes they just jump over the fence and they're right in there helping with it.
People just having that visual, being able to walk by this space and see like, oh, people are growing food there. It fills in the space. You're using a really like a space that would just be grass or a parking lot, and adding biodiversity to the area. So that's a really good environmental impact. It's really affordable once you can kind of get in with, you get the seeds and you can save your seeds, and once you get in with a community that's growing food together, you can share that food, and it's very cost effective, absolutely.
Definite health benefits. One, to eating out of your own garden, because your food is fresh. Two, because you start finding out, like, hopefully different ways to use things that you wouldn't necessarily, like I mentioned, eating the leaves of the broccoli plant, which they don't sell, they're so delicious. And then also, obviously, the health benefits of just going outside and working in your garden, which is not incredibly strenuous most of the time, especially when you have raised beds. But you're outside, you're in the sun, you're in the weather, you know, you're digging in the dirt, you're just kind of completing a cycle of planting something, growing it, working it, and then ingesting it, and then using that energy to kind of go back out, grow more things, take care of them, you know, so it kind of makes way more sense.
The lone farms, for example, at some of the housing communities will take people's blood pressure and maybe do their sugar, or, you know, test them for different food-related illnesses, and they give them a prescription of vegetables as a gift. And so I would like to see that go forward, where we have a little army of people putting gardens in at those people's houses. Because when you connect to the earth and your food, and you see such a health benefit, just your hair can, in the summertime, usually grows faster, but when you eat fresh vegetables, it goes crazy. It gets thicker, your skin gets nicer, and you can tell when somebody eats right by just the shine in their eyes, I think. Generally, citizen activists started the gardens. Sometimes we started them really with not the community involved, but after they see collards growing and things they want to eat, slowly but surely the neighborhood gets involved. So we had one group put one right by Creighton Court, and the neighborhood has basically taken it over, which is what we want. So those people, those activists, citizen advocates for food justice, will move on and build a new garden.
We just finished applying for a grant to hopefully get us a good amount of funding for a new garden on Monroe Park campus. It's a space over on Parkwood and Harrison, and what we're planning to do is grow as much food as possible in that space, get some vertical planters going, like as high output as we can get in that space, and we'll be donating that to a couple of different groups that we're partnering with the RAM Pantry, which is VCU's food pantry, and with the Center for High Blood Pressure, which is a local clinic that provides healthcare to low-income people. So they'll be giving the produce to their clients, I guess, and they'll be helping us do a lot of different workshops. We're working with service learning at VCU. There's a lot of different collaborations with that project.
In the program, 10% of the garden has to be devoted to underprivileged families, or they have to somehow give the food away or help the community like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's one thing that people can come to work and they can grow their own food and they can take that food home. And that's a huge thing, is when we can provide education to people to learn how to grow their own food. That does a lot for someone, just having the power to know how to access that, or even just be aware that that is an issue. Because a lot of the times there isn't that awareness that that's a problem, that food deserts are an issue.
So I think growing things, like I said, is just like a key component of feeling more, for lack of a better term, empowered about your food, and therefore not going to those big grocery stores as much, going to the markets more often, eating what's not even organic, but more importantly, what's local.
You can grow virtually anything in pots on your porch. You can grow potatoes. You just Google container gardening, and you can basically grow whatever you want in a little on your porch, if you have a porch. People are really interested in food. You can get a lot of people from different cultures to come together to try new foods. They're a lot braver when you have a company over.
You're finding more and more markets around the area because people, they would rather go get fresh vegetables, fresh fruits, fresh ingredients from somebody that they're dealing with. They have that comfort factor, as well as supporting the local economy, and they know they're getting good quality food. I mean, if we have it, or we have produce, or another person's got fresh eggs, you can't get any fresher than buying it from your neighbor, sort of say.
Folks are being educated on the delicious benefits of fresh picked fruits and fresh eggs and butter and salsa and Brunswick stew, many things that are fresh alternatives. And once they bite into a crisp apple or taste a hot bowl of Brunswick stew or eat a fresh egg and see what an egg does to a cake that's not just from a store, or taste the fresh tomatoes, they say, wow, it's not so much the battle, but it's the enhancement and the learning knowledge that they get from coming to a farmer's market. And once they try it, they're quite often hooked, because it's something they may not have tested and tasted. So it's a great learning thing for them.
The steady incline of markets like this is a positive way to see the local community and what's really grown. Almost 85% of all Virginia is unfarmed. We resource all this product to import here. And what the governor and the Virginia Finest and agribusiness want to do is they want to keep it here. We want people to recognize our farmlands and everything else. And of course, pesticide-free, chemical-free, farm-fresh ingredients. When it comes from field to table, this is where it is coming from.
Well, I think what our government can do is perhaps not entice the political greed, the corporate greed that allows the shortcuts to be taken, and to allow the small businesses to actually have a business that's profitable, encouraging that, taking away some of the red tape that allows the small business owner to really succeed. It's the corporations that are cutting corners that harm us when you think you're eating something healthy. That's a challenge. So back here at the farmers markets, it's just folks trying to regain some sensibility about what we're eating, what we're putting into our bodies, and having some fun while doing it, and teaching others about good, wholesome eating.
I'm Bill Oglesby, an assistant professor at VCU's Robertson School of Media and Culture and the instructor for this documentary class. With me tonight are the producers of this documentary you just saw, Taylor Thornburg, Evan Ratner, and Will McHugh. Guys, good job.
Thank you.
Let me start off by asking you, Taylor, how exactly would you define what a food desert is, and how is it that Richmond has so many people who are a part of one?
Well, from what I learned in producing this documentary was that a food desert is an area where people of lower income have difficulty accessing fresh or healthy foods. So generally that's a problem of transportation or a lack of available opportunities for those kinds of things. So like a lack of grocery stores or farmers markets, things like that. And the reason that Richmond has so many is really goes back a long way. There's a lot of factors that contribute to food deserts. So for example, the GRTC bus system is, it does its job, but it's not the best. So that's one problem that we face. And then another issue and another reason is that, as you can tell driving through Richmond, is that we have, one Kroger on Lombardy Street, and then all the way up to Church Hill, you can't find another grocery store, and maybe occasionally you can find like a gas station or like a convenience store. And so those are the options that people go to when they don't have fresh food, which is a health problem.
So in other words, sometimes it's just a difficulty in getting from one place to another to actually find that grocery store.
Exactly. It's a big deal with transportation.
Okay. Evan, are farmers markets like the one we saw here in the documentary, are they the right way to go on this?
Absolutely. I believe farmers markets and community gardens that were also in the documentary is a great way to battle this food desert issue. They help bring fresh produce from the local gardens and local farms to areas where you're having trouble getting produce. A lot of these people that want fresh vegetables just don't have the transportation or the means to get it. And these markets and gardens provide a way to get this fresh produce right out of the farm or right out of the garden, which really helps the food desert issue in itself.
Will, let me ask you, how do food deserts that exist in urban areas, how do they differ from ones in rural areas?
Well, with the rural areas, it's more spread out. You're in the country and you got further distances between like a grocery store or something like that. So it's understandable for somebody to be further away from a grocery store. Whereas in a city, there's a bunch of people and you expect there to be grocery stores within walking distance or people to have transportation to get there, but it seems to be just overlooked within the city. So that's basically the biggest issue. That's the biggest difference, is people getting that fresh food within the city, and it's just overlooked.
But it is a rural problem too. It's not just urban, like a lot of people may think.
Right.
Yeah. What was the most challenging aspect of doing this documentary? Any of you can answer that.
Definitely would be trying to film this documentary in the middle of the winter. We went to a lot of community gardens that were covered in snow. Ones that were, nothing was growing there. It was there was a lack of greenery in our documentary, and you'll see that we tried to make do with what we had.
Well, timing is everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thanks, guys. I've been speaking with Robertson School students and documentary producers Taylor Thornburg, Evan Ratner, and Will McHugh. Thanks. Good job, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Dr. Oglesby. And now we turn back in time to a documentary we first aired last spring, and which recently won an award from the Society of Professional Journalists.
New treatments for acquired immune deficiency syndrome, or AIDS, have made what was once a fatal condition into something chronic and often treatable.
But what about the effect it can have on a relationship when one partner is HIV positive and the other is negative?
The result can be positive love, as we see with this one Richmond couple who takes us inside their relationship.
Oh, we're starting?
Yeah, go ahead. Just
Oh. Hi, I'm Grant, and I got the HIV.
That's so sorry.
Anyways, hi, I'm Grant, and I have HIV.
And my name is Dominique, and I am HIV negative.
So, this is the medicine that I take. It's a triplet, and it is a 1-a-day dosage. So, like, a lot of people think that HIV medication is just 2 or 3 pills where the medication has actually gotten so good now that they can put it into a pill that you take once a day, and they're huge. It's that little thing, which, well, for me, it's huge. I was in class, it was on December 1st, because I remember it was on World AIDS Day, surprisingly. And I got a phone call in class from the clinic, and I called them back and I was like, so what's going on? And they're like, well, you need to come in, we have to tell you your test results. The doctor came in and she sat down and she just point blank said, your HIV test came back positive. When she actually said it, just kind of like knocked the wind out of me, sort of say.
Sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when he rose up from the grave?
Y'all have to be singing that song when I'm not here. My faith has always been very, very important to me, and I've always been active with it and active within a faith community. However, the HIV diagnosis, I think, deepened my faith, where some people it might push them away from it and make them really question the existence of God or like the benevolent love of God. It actually pushed me towards it because through that entire ordeal within the first 6 months I was dealing with it, it was my faith that actually kept me grounded in the world and gave me the tools to deal with it and cope and grow out of it. It could have been a very negative experience in my life from a mistake that I made, but God was very, very loving, is always loving. And if you allow God into your life when something negative or bad happens, God can turn it into something very beautiful.
Grant is very outgoing, very opinionated, very passionate, and Dominique is very even-keeled, very deliberate, very calming.
It's been very good for Grant in that he's been there to be supportive of him. And the issues that I see them having are just regular couple issues, and it really isn't what I've seen. It hasn't revolved around the HIV, which has been a good thing.
I don't know, what are you in the mood? You are not making spaghetti.
But we can have garlic bread.
I want spaghetti.
Well, what else do you want?
Do you have any like interesting sauces, or is it all like plain? Oof. Don't we have like tomato sauce?
And it's ragu.
No. I want spaghetti. We're gonna make tacos.
No.
Make tacos.
I don't want tacos. Our first interaction, I was looking for a cup for water because we were having a lunch or something, and I went up to the security desk and I was like, hey, do y'all have any cups for water back there?
I was like, we don't have a cup, just drink it out of your hands. And I think he thought I was trying to make fun of him, but I was actually being serious. Drink water out of your hands, it's fine.
What do I look like? I look like I come from a third world country and I can't afford cups. Like, it was a really horrible thing to say, but that was the first thing that came out of my mouth.
We started off very snarky, with just, I guess, passing names back and forth.
I don't know. Like, there's just like this instant connection that we had, and I just felt drawn to him.
How did I know Grant was the one? I mean, again, I think I just gave him a try, so.
Just a try?
I feel like there was no one moment where I was like, oh, this is the one. Like, there was no revelation, no light bulbs going off. I knew it. I was comfortable with him. We could be ourselves, so.
You can take a leg if you want it. Because I'm not going to eat all of this.
Well, you guys got the dinner portion, right?
We did.
I got the lunch.
It's probably smart to do that.
Especially since I'm going to make Dominique go to Krispy Kreme. Yep. There's a Krispy Kreme over there.
I mean, it's right there.
We are going there tonight before we go home.
Oh, God.
I wouldn't say that I felt like I wasn't worthy of love, but I definitely had those instances where I really questioned if I would find it and if it was something that would be in my life one day.
And we were just talking, and he just told me, like, flat out, you know, hey, I have HIV, and I was like, oh, you know, I already knew that. And I think it kind of threw him off guard, too, that I was just, like, so nonchalant about it.
But he didn't let on that he knew about it. I remember the night that I told him he was working security, and he came up to my room, and I had a single apartment at that point, and even though he was supposed to be working, he stayed up there for 3.5, 4 hours, and we just sat there talking. And I remember telling him, I was like, so I need to kind of tell you something. I'm HIV positive. He's like, oh yeah, I know. I was like, oh, okay. That's nice to know that you know. Is it fair for me to put Dominique in a position where he's going to be living the last 15, 20 years of his life without someone there? And I wouldn't want that.
You're gonna cry.
And it's something that scares me because I don't want to leave him. He drives me crazy.
Because we're gonna go get our pictures taken at, well, yeah, get our pictures taken at Botanical Gardens. So gotta look a little fresh, a little fun. I've always, heard stories of, planning weddings is gonna drive you crazy, you're gonna be angry, you're gonna be happy. It's pretty much every emotion you could imagine when you're planning a wedding. So I definitely get that from Grant. Grant can go into bridezilla mode where he has to get everything he wants, he has to do this, he has to, call this person now, I can't wait. But also, I get those happy moments when Grant's just, happy that the wedding's coming up very soon. For me personally, I'm just going with the flow of it, You need the money for something, here's the money for it. You want to call this, I'll call this person, Basically trying to make the process as simple and stress-free as possible.
Because we're doing that.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
We have to.
You're gonna get it all over your new suit.
I know, right?
We'll put a dip over it. If we met a young couple that was like us, where there's an HIV positive and HIV negative person, I would give them the same advice that this gentleman gave me, and it's that don't let it become your life. It's now a part of you, and it will paint what your life is, but it isn't your life. You want a dog? There's so many things that I know I want to tell you, and there's so much in me that I hope you know, but I feel like there's never words to express it. And I feel like the only way I can actually get around to doing it, and hopefully you see it, is the way we live our life together and going through the daily motions and everything. God, you actually made me speechless. I don't know what to say. That's a first. Jerkwad.
That does it for this edition of VCU InDepth, and thank you for joining us. I'm Sean Hicks.
And I'm Zach Staple. And from all of us at VCU InDepth, good night.